Poems and Prayers is my third symphony, and it was commissioned by the Center for Middle East Peace, Culture, and Development. And the idea was to commission a large-scale piece for choir, orchestra, soloists, basically anything I wanted. It was to be a large work that incorporated the poems of Israeli poets, Palestinian poets, and my idea was to take some of my favorite poets that I was, in touch with during their lives and close to, Yehuda Amichai, the sort of national poet of Israel, Mahmoud Darwish, a very, very prominent Palestinian poet, and Fadwa Tuqan, who was known during her lifetime as a sort of poetess of Palestine, and contextualize their poetry within the rite of the Kaddish, the prayer ritual, the Jewish prayer ritual, which is basically a prayer that has accumulated the connotation of being a prayer for the dead, but really it's just a doxology praising God and praying for peace. So the idea was to bring people together in this symphony and to create basically a symphonic series of poems and prayers. Well, the size of Poems and Prayers is gargantuan. I mean, the idea is that it takes after that very, very first choral symphony, obviously Beethoven's Ninth, as being the inception sort of for this idea of all men will become brothers, which is articulated in the Ode to Joy. And the commission was for a choral symphony, so that's where it sort of started as the inception for this. I also feel that something very special happens to people when they come together in a choir to sing. And it's very different than, let's say, a band or an orchestra or whatever, because anyone can really come together into a choir, It's basically your community, your butcher, baker, banker, all different levels of people, and they come together and they sing together. And by singing together, something within them is transformed. And of course, church congregations and synagogue congregations and, all sorts of different religious denominations have known this for a long time, and they've used it. Obviously from a more humanistic perspective, you have, the likes of the Beethovens and the Mahlers using it as a method to come together. And so that was really the inspiration behind using such a large choral force and an orchestral force, and also I should say that it's also gargantuan in the length. It's about a 65 to 70 minute long piece, which 65 minutes is about 10 minutes longer than the Eroica Symphony. But in today's world, a contemporary composer writing a symphony is sort of strange, but writing a symphony that involves about 300 performers and lasts roughly 65 minutes, over an hour, is completely insane and ambitious, and I'm drawn to very insane things, I'm drawn to insane projects. We were very lucky with the SONO LUMINUS recording in that we got Sasha Cook to sing the main mezzo-soprano role, and she sings with a sort of characteristic fervent passion and energy, and she plays a lot of different roles in this symphony. It's an extremely demanding role, and of course Sasha is one of our great rising stars of the vocal music scene. We have had the great luck of getting David Krakauer to play the solo clarinet movement in Poems and Prayers, and of course he's one of the great klezmer clarinets, the most well-known klezmer clarinetist alive, and on the CD he also plays the sort of 10-minute piece for clarinet and orchestra, Tahrir, which has become a sort of signature piece for him since I wrote it for him a few years ago. We also got David Kravitz, a very, very powerful baritone who appears on my Naxos CD, Native Informant, singing for victims. So the key players of this symphony are phenomenal. The combined forces of the UCLA Philharmonia and chorus, the orchestra, the beautiful, beautiful setting of Royce Hall, where the LA Philharmonic recorded for many, many years. It's really, we were just very fortunate to have the confluence of all the different forces. And I should also point out that we were very, very fortunate to have the sage and fine leadership of Neil Stolberg conducting the ensemble. Neil Stolberg is, I think, a great conductor by any stretch of the imagination, but also a conductor who speaks Hebrew and was able to coach the chorus in the Amichai, and that's a very rare asset that we had for this recording. So what we're going to hear is some very, very accurate language, and some very accurate not only musical representation but poetic representation.